Oh, that's so good. Hi everybody, welcome back to Happiness Unlocked. My name is Brandy Renee, and on this channel we discuss topics centered on love, relationships, personal growth, as well as mental wellness. So today I'm going to try something a little different. We're going to launch our tea talk, and this is just a real talk about whatever is on my mind on that day or week. So I'm going to try to bring these to you at least twice a month, but the hope is once a week. So I'm drinking Yogi stress relief, lavender and honey soothing tea. So go ahead and grab your drink of preference and let's start talking about setting boundaries and people pleasing. So boundaries are the limits that we set in our life to help protect our peace, our energy, our time, money, and other valuable resources. Okay, so they also allow you to tell people how it is that you want to be treated, how you deserve to be treated, and not to rely on how they think you want to be treated and how they think they should interact with you, so to speak. So that's my personal definition of boundaries. So how was I introduced to boundaries? I was introduced to boundaries in my junior year of undergrad. I had chosen a, an emphasis. So I was a sociology major, Pan-African Studies minor, and within my major, I'd chosen counseling and interviewing as my emphases. And so I was in Dr. Corey's class. Hi, Dr. Corey, if you're watching. She's such an amazing woman. And it was a counseling practicum class. So we each had to go up and participate in like a mock counseling session, and then also like switch roles, I believe, and be the counselor if I'm remembering correctly. Well, when I volunteered to go up, or whenever it was my turn to go up, I was describing to Dr. Corey some of the things that I was experiencing in my family life. And she said, it sounds like you could work on having better boundaries. I was like, having what? Like, y'all, I never heard of it. I was like, what is a boundary? What do you say? And so from there, she began to explain, what boundaries were, etc., etc. So y'all, that was, I think so, if it was my junior year, so I was 21 then, 20 or 21. And it took me until, I would say like 27 before I even revisited boundaries. And then it took me until, oh y'all, it's so bad, like 29 to like really get serious about setting boundaries in my life to protect my peace and my energy. As I share with y'all in my Taking Care of Yourself Everyday video, I am a recovering people pleaser. So let's kind of go over, before we get into some tips and tricks and hacks, what are some signs that you might be a people pleaser? So one sign could be that you feel guilt, and your guilt is the reason why you say yes to things that you don't want to do. Okay, so if the only reason why you are in a relationship, the only reason why you say yes to things, that could be a sign that you are people pleasing. Another sign is that when it's time for you to make a decision or you're asked to do things, not only does guilt come up, but you start to feel anxious, or you start to feel like some anxiety. So that could be another tell-all sign that you might be engaging in people-pleasing behaviors. I'm trying to think of another thing. Those are like the top two. Oh, the other one is if you feel resentment after doing things, right? You start to feel resentment after helping someone or agreeing to do something. You feel immediate regret after saying yes, and you just have a really hard time saying no. You feel really bad for saying no. One of the things that you fear is disappointing people. If you answer yes to one or more of those things, you might be engaging in people-pleasing behavior. And I'm gonna talk to you about how to set boundaries to protect your peace and to stop people-pleasing. So the first thing that you could do is start to evaluate like which relationships and which situations cause you the most angst. Like when you think about the relationship that you have with person X, that relationship makes you feel negative, or it causes you anxiety, or you know, when someone asks you to give up time on your weekends to do something that causes you angst, whatever the case is, start to pay close attention to like the situations where your anxiety starts to come up. You start to feel guilty to do things, because that could be a sign, number one, that you might have like some toxic people in your life where they're just like, every time you're interacting with them, you start to feel anxious, you start to feel nervous, you start to feel guilty, you have like more negative feelings than not. Number one, they might be toxic, they could be manipulative, and sometimes if you're dealing with toxic people, they may know that you're struggling with people pleasing, and they may push all the buttons to get everything that they can out of you. Now, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes like you're in these relationships, and because you haven't set healthy boundaries, they're not aware that they're causing you angst, anxiety, and guilt. But as you start on your journey to set boundaries, things will get better. I think one of the most important things is to just know where you stand on things, right? Like, there's a saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So it's super, super, super important for you to know what you're willing to tolerate, what you're not willing to tolerate, what your values are, what your morals are, where you're going in life, those sorts of things, so that you don't violate any of your own values, any of your own beliefs, you know, just to make someone else happy. Because when you do those things, what you're trading in is your own happiness. You have to then cash in and sacrifice parts of you for someone else. And I promise you, it is not worth it. It is so not worth it. I promise you, believe me. The next thing that you can do to make yourself less vulnerable to people pleasing and to help yourself set boundaries is to make self-care a priority. So basically, you can come up with your self-care routine. You can start to work on making self-care a staple in your life. And then when someone asks you to do something, you can go through your checks and balances and say, and evaluate whether or not if you engage in that activity or go to that engagement or volunteer your time to do something, if it's going to jeopardize the time that you have set aside for your self-care, then the answer is automatically no. So in order to like properly kind of like engage in this step, you have to give yourself time when asked to do something. So for example, if someone says, hey Brandy, you know, can you come out and babysit for me because X, Y, and Z. As a people pleaser, the answer that's gonna jump out of my body is, yes, of course, yeah, I would love to, right? But now that I'm aware that I'm a people pleaser, because believe it or not, I mean, everybody else around me knew, but I did not know. I'm a people pleaser. Then now I'm like, okay, let me get back to you. Let me like check my schedule and make sure that this is something that I can do, and I'll get back to you by the end of the day. So by doing that, I'm able to like reflect, like, okay, like, do I really want to do this? Is this gonna cause me any resentment? Is this going to jeopardize my self-care? All of that stuff. So basically what I'm saying is, don't be so quick to answer. Like, don't feel so pressured to answer on the spot. It's nice to give yourself a little bit of a buffer. You know, don't stand anybody up. If you tell them you're gonna call them back, actually call them back, because you do want to maintain good relationships, but you don't want to jeopardize like your time just because you feel guilty about saying no. Okay, so basically, you know, take your time, make the decision that is best for you, not for someone else. And the other thing that I would say is to like really get connected with your feelings. And y'all know what I'm about to say, right? Journal. Journaling can help, I promise. Journaling truly did help me to set boundaries though, because as I started to journal, I started to notice patterns in the things that made me uncomfortable. So the next thing I'm going to say is just to get connected with your feelings, get connected with your discomfort. So when you are in situations and you start to feel uncomfortable, you start to feel anxiety or anxious, shall I say, like, start to take time to reflect on like why, like what in that situation caused you to feel anxious, what in that situation caused you discomfort, and that's going to help you to establish where you need to set your boundaries. So that is like it's an art in a way, because it doesn't come all at once. So it's not like one day you are boundaryless. That's a, you know what, that's a word I'm gonna coin, boundaryless. So it's like you're without boundaries, and then you're like, I'm a people pleaser, I want to change that, I'm gonna set boundaries, and then tomorrow when you wake up, all your healthy boundaries are set and life is perfect. No, I have literally slipped up so many times on the boundary front. Like, y'all, I am still working on it. I say that I'm a recovering people pleaser because look, I have been people pleasing my whole life, and now I'm recognizing it and I'm working on it, but I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I know what works, and I know that these things work. I know that evaluating, knowing where I stand, continuously reflecting, and then setting boundaries in areas and in places to avoid unnecessary discomfort and resentment. I know that those things work. I also know that setting a buffer and not saying yes immediately works for me. And I just want to also say that you have permission to say no even after you say yes. Like, this is your life. This is your mental wellness. This is your physical wellness, because sometimes as people pleasers, we'll even forego our own sleep, okay, our own basic needs to help others, right? And it's not that you're gonna set these boundaries and you're never going to help another person. No, most of the times we're people pleasers because we like to help people. Helping might even be in our calling, right? It might even be in our life's purpose. So what boundaries will do is just make sure that you're reserving an appropriate amount of energy to take care of yourself and to uplift you, elevate your happiness, and elevate your comfort level, and also take away the feelings of guilt when you're unable to do something, right? Like, it's not cool for people to guilt you, but to be honest, as a people pleaser, sometimes it's not people guilting me. It's me kind of engaging in negative thinking patterns and believing that somebody else will be upset at me, and that makes me uncomfortable. So then I guilt myself into doing. Please comment below if you've engaged in that sort of like weird fortune telling, negative thinking pattern. I say weird because when I say it out loud, it's like, it's kind of embarrassing that I do that. But it is so normal, especially if you have anxiety. That's like one of the things that people work on in therapy very often. So yeah, what else would I have to say? I think that's basically it. I'm not gonna prolong this, but I do just want to say that if you're a people pleaser, just know that it is something that is a part of you that you can heal. It is a part of you that deserves to be healed. You deserve to be able to protect your energy and your time. And yeah, I hope to see you next week for our tea talk number 2. So don't forget to grab your tea next time you see it. Oh, and also don't forget to click the bell. It'll let you know every time that I upload. All right. I'm gonna be going to sleep after this. I'm up way past my bedtime. Take off this makeup and I'm out. Bye.